Most people get a little uncomfortable when they're alone for too long. They reach for a phone, turn on a video, message someone, or fill the room with noise. Silence can feel strangely intense because once the distractions disappear, your own thoughts become harder to avoid. But some people experience the exact opposite. Their mind feels clearer when the room becomes quiet. They do not simply tolerate certain activities alone, they genuinely prefer them that way. And what looks like isolation from the outside may actually reflect something more interesting: a strong capacity for self direction, emotional awareness, and reflection. So, if you love doing these 6 things alone, stay with me. Your brain may not be withdrawing from life, it may simply do some of its best work when nobody else is shaping the moment. Imagine it is a free Saturday afternoon. Other people are making group plans. Meanwhile, you are taking a walk by yourself, sitting in your car for a few extra minutes, or enjoying coffee at a table for one. And then a small question appears. Should I feel strange for liking this? That question may not come from you. It may come from years of hearing that being social means being happy, while being alone means something must be wrong. But chosen solitude and painful loneliness are not the same experience. One can feel empty, the other can feel like finally hearing yourself think. Here are 6 solitary habits that can reveal a very different relationship with your own mind. Number 1, you think through problem alone before asking for advice. When something goes wrong, many people immediately send a message. What would you do? Am I overreacting? Tell me what this means. You may ask those questions eventually, but not first. First, you sit with the problem. You separate facts from assumptions, consider several explanations, and return to the issue when your emotions have settled. This does not mean you believe you always know best. It means you want your own judgment to enter the conversation before everyone else's opinions do. Psychologist Julian Rotter described an internal locus of control as a tendency to see outcomes as meaningfully connected to one's own behavior rather than controlled entirely by outside forces. Thinking independently is not identical to having an internal locus of control, but the two share an important quality: a sense of personal agency. When you work through uncertainty before outsourcing it, advice becomes information, not a replacement for thought. Your brain is not rejecting help, it is refusing to disappear inside other people's answers. Number 2, you process difficult emotions in private. When something hurts, you may become quieter. Not because you feel nothing, and not because you want to punish anyone. You become quiet because your emotions need space before they become language. Perhaps you sit alone after an argument and ask, am I angry, embarrassed, disappointed, or afraid? Did the person cross a boundary, or did the moment touch an older wound? What exactly am I reacting to? This kind of emotional precision is sometimes called emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between closely related emotional experiences instead of describing everything as simply good or bad. The difference matters. If you recognize that anger contains rejection, helplessness, or shame, you can respond to the actual emotion rather than the loudest one. Private processing is healthy only when it eventually helps you understand, communicate, or act. Silence that becomes permanent avoidance is different, but when solitude helps you name what is happening inside you, quiet is not an escape, it is a form of emotional translation. Number 3, you have small solo rituals that nobody sees. Maybe you walk the same route after work. You make coffee before the house wakes up. You listen to one playlist only when you are driving alone. You sit near a window at night and let the day settle before you sleep. Nobody assigned these rituals, nobody applauds them. Most people may not even know they exist. That is precisely why they matter. These private routines create a part of life that is not performed for an audience. Instead of waiting for others to define a meaningful moment, you create your own signals. Developmental theories of self-authorship describe the gradual movement from being defined mainly by external expectations toward forming an internal sense of identity and values. A morning ritual does not prove that someone has reached a particular developmental stage, but choosing private routines because they genuinely fit you can express the same basic movement: a life directed more from within. The ritual may look ordinary. Psychologically, it says, I know how to return to myself. Number 4, you make important decisions in quiet. You may collect information, compare options, and ask experienced people before making a major choice. But when it is time to choose the job, end the relationship, move to a new city, or take the risk, you need to be alone. You want to know what remains after the voices fade. Classic conformity research by Solomon Asch showed how strongly group pressure can influence even simple judgments. Real life decisions are far more complicated, but the social pull remains familiar. Under uncertainty, agreement can feel safer than independent judgment. People who decide in solitude separate input from instruction. Others can challenge your blind spots, but they cannot live with the outcome in your place. So you step away from the conversation and ask a more difficult question. If nobody praised this choice and nobody criticized it, what would I believe is right? That does not make every private decision correct, it makes the decision yours. Number 5, you enjoy experiences alone without needing to explain yourself. You can eat alone without hiding behind your phone. You can visit a bookstore, museum, cinema, or park without needing another person to make the experience legitimate. You're not waiting sadly for company, you are already present. There is an enormous difference between isolation you did not choose and solitude you actively want. Research by Tuiving Nguyen, Richard Ryan, and Edward Deci found that solitude can reduce high arousal emotions and that chosen solitude can support relaxation and lower stress. That does not mean time alone is automatically healthy or that relationships are optional. Humans still need connection. It means aloneness has more than one psychological meaning. Your own company may provide a slower pace and freedom from being observed. You can notice what interests you without checking whether anyone else is impressed. The experience does not become real when someone joins you. It was real from the beginning. Number 6, you reflect on your own behavior without being asked. This may be the most revealing habit of all. After a conversation, part of your mind keeps working. Why did that comment bother me? Why did I become defensive? Did I listen, or was I only waiting to respond? What would I do differently next time? Nobody demanded an apology. There is no public consequence forcing you to look back. You reflect because understanding yourself feels necessary. Reflection can turn experience into learning. The difference is not always traditional intelligence. Sometimes it is the willingness to examine what happened instead of immediately moving on. But reflection has a boundary. Useful reflection creates insight or a next step. Rumination repeats the same questions without resolution and often makes the stress heavier. If your mind only prosecutes you, that is not deeper wisdom. It may be a sign that you need a kinder perspective or support from someone you trust. Healthy self-reflection sounds less like, "What is wrong with me?" and more like, "What was happening in me and what can I learn from it?" None of these habits is loud. Nobody gives you an award for taking a quiet walk, naming an emotion accurately, or thinking before asking for approval. Yet all 6 point toward the same underlying capacity: self-trust. Trusting your mind enough to examine a problem. Trusting your emotions enough to feel them without immediately escaping. Trusting your values enough to make a decision. Trusting your own presence enough to enjoy an experience without an audience. When external demands decrease, the brain does not simply switch off. Research on the default mode network shows organized activity during rest and internally focused thought. Experiments also suggest that an undemanding activity that permits mind wandering can sometimes support creative problem solving. That may help explain why an answer appears while you are walking, showering, driving, or staring out of a window. From the outside, nothing is happening. Inside, unfinished thoughts may be finding new shapes. Still, enjoying solitude does not automatically mean your brain is superior. It does not diagnose high intelligence, emotional maturity, or a special personality type. The meaningful difference is not simply being alone, it is what you are able to do with the space. Does it help you return to life clearer, calmer, and more honest? Or does it pull you further away from the people and responsibilities that matter? Healthy solitude restores connection. It does not permanently replace it. So if you recognize yourself in these 6 habits, you may not be antisocial, cold, or difficult to understand. You may simply have developed an inner world that does not become empty when the room becomes quiet. You can think without a crowd, feel without performing, decide without consensus, enjoy without documenting, reflect without being forced. And in a world that constantly asks for your attention, that ability is becoming increasingly rare. Maybe your brain is not trying to escape life when you choose to be alone. Maybe it is finally getting enough quiet to understand it. If you recognize yourself here, tell me in the comments which of these 6 things do you enjoy doing alone the most. And if you want more calm psychology breakdowns about the patterns behind everyday behavior, subscribe to Mindline Lab.